Hi there. When we think of Job, what do we think of? We think of suffering, right? And when we think of suffering, I think we are very forgetful people to remember that Christ was perfect and he suffered. Um, and Job here is a foreshadowing of us, though he was innocent and didn't do anything wrong. Um, he suffered, and God allowed Job to suffer. And this is a great easy foreshadowing for us to understand that though Christ was without sin, he suffered for us all. And suffered he did, going to the cross and dying on the cross and taking up every single sin from every single human being that has ever stepped foot on the earth. And that's amazing to think about, the pain and agony of all of it. And then at the climax of that, Jesus said, my God, why have you forsaken me? And that separation from his Father was probably worse than anything. But Job is a suffering servant, and he's going through the ringer here, as we've seen. And we're in chapter 27, and his relief has not come. His three friends have failed to give him any comfort. And Job, in previous chapters, mocks them, saying, "Oh, what wonderful comforters you are," when in fact they're not. They're just throwing their thoughts and beliefs. And the main belief that I see being thrown at Job is this: if you hadn't sinned, Job, then none of this would happen. Because surely bad things don't happen to good people, and good things don't happen to bad people. Well, that is not true. Karma is 100% false, and Job cancels out any belief or any thought that karma is real. Karma is not real. Bad things do happen to good people, and great things and wonderful things happen to bad people. And bad things happen to good people, and the same is true in that regard. So we're heading through Job here, and we're beginning to understand suffering. We're beginning to understand what it means to comfort somebody and what it means to not. And Job is crying out in his pain and agony, and keep in mind he's got sores from head to toe. He just lost 10 of his children. His wife says, curse God and die. His three friends are of no comfort whatsoever. He lost his wealth, and servants and cattle was stolen from. Everything is going horrible for Job. And yet God is allowing all of it. And we have to remember that the same thing happened to God. Though he was rich, he became poor. He gave up everything. And though he was without sin, he paid the punishment for all of us. Every sin that you commit, have committed, will commit, are committing, or every single thought, every single action that you've done that's missed perfection, that has been sin. I like to think of the bullseye, and if you're not hitting the bullseye, you're not fixing your eyes on Jesus, you're sinning. And the word says no one who abides in him sins. So if you're abiding in Christ, you're not in sin. But the moment you take your eyes off of Christ as a Christian is the moment that you are in error, and God paid for all of that. And that's why we have Psalm 23. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. When God pulls out his rod and his staff, that's for direction, that's for care, that's for safety, that's for rebuke, that's for dragging the lost sheep back into the fold, back into the pastures, or at least back onto the trail that leads to new pastures. Sometimes when God rebukes you and changes your life, it doesn't turn out all green and fuzzy like with the grass right away. You have to travel up or down or around a mountain, and it takes a while to find new pastures, from my own experience. But Job is a suffering man, and we really need to study this book diligently, take it to heart, and really ask God to reveal what it is he'd show us about the book of Job. We shouldn't be running over this book. Our country is has been going through horrible phases in recent years, the last decade and beyond. And last night we had a landslide victory for Donald Trump as becoming president, and we need to be praying for him. We need to be praying for this country still. It's pretty obvious that the country chose the lesser of two evils between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, and it boils down to a lot of things, but one of the things was Hillary Clinton wanted to kill babies 9 months into the womb and was okay with that, and Donald Trump is more and more pro-life and not okay with that. And so, I don't know, we just take a pause and thank God that the lesser of two evil directions for this country has taken place, and that God would be with our president and the people in this country. If he is at all, it's mercy and grace. It's not because of anything that the people of this country have done or not done, except the few Christians that have prayed and asked God and seeked God and humbled themselves and repented on behalf of the country. And that's kind of what we're tying into Job here. We're seeing Job going through suffering, and he's not quite to the point where he's repenting of things because he can't seem to find anything. In the last chapter, he said, I will hold on to my integrity until I die. And rightfully so. This just came upon Job. And we know from behind the scenes that it was allowed by God. Satan was allowed to hurt Job and harm Job. And but in the end, it comes redemption. God is always at the end of everything. He's at the end of the world. He's at the end of every person's life. When you die, you go to meet Jesus face to face. You don't go to some la-la land and just never exist. You do exist. Your eternity is set in the hearts of men. And whether you acknowledge that or not, as a Christian or non-Christian, you're on your way to meet Christ. And so we can take comfort in the fact that yet we may go through suffering similar to Job or like Job, or like Jesus. We share in the overflow of his sufferings. We can take comfort that it's for our good and it's for other people's good, and that God always is at the end of it all. He's the Redeemer. And that's kind of where Job is at. He's complaining and whining in chapter 27. Chapter 27, and Job continued his discourse. As surely as God lives, who has denied me justice? The Almighty, who has made me taste bitterness of soul? As long as I have life within me, the breath of God in my nostrils, my lips will not speak wickedness. My tongue will utter no deceit. I will never admit you are in the right. Till I die, I will not deny my integrity. There you see Job sticking to his guns. He can't see any wrong that he's done to deserve the suffering that he's going through. Verse 6, I will maintain my righteousness and never let go of it. My conscience will not reproach me as long as I live. May my enemies be like the wicked, my adversaries like the unjust. For what hope has the godless when he is cut off? When God takes away his life, does God listen to his cry? When distress comes upon him, will he find delight in the Almighty? Will he call upon God at all times? I will teach you about the power of God. The ways of the Almighty I will not conceal. You have all seen this yourselves. Why then this meaningless talk? Here is the fate God allots to the wicked, the heritage a ruthless man receives from the Almighty. However many his children, their fate is the sword. His offspring will never have enough to eat. The plague will bury those who survive him, and the widows will not weep for them. Though he heaps up silver like dust and clothes like piles of clay, what he lays up the righteous will wear, and the innocent will divide his silver. The house he builds is like a moth's cocoon, like a hut made by a watchman. He lies down wealthy, but will do so no more. When he opens his eyes, all is gone. The terrors overtake him like a flood. A tempest snatches him away in the night. In other words, he's saying, you don't know when you're going to die, and the unrighteous people don't know when they're going to die, those who don't receive Jesus. And you really just don't know when your time is up. And that's what Job is saying here. In verse 21, going on. The east wind carries him off, and he is gone. It sweeps him out of his place. It hurls itself against him without mercy as he flees headlong from its power. It claps its hands in derision and hisses him out of his place. Think there is power. There are powers at work and forces in nature and in the unseen realm that are far more powerful than you as a human, or us, even as us as a people. And that's what Job is saying here. When you don't know when you're going to die. You don't have that power. You don't have the privilege of saying, I'd like to live today. That is not a power that you behold, or ever will. Your life is in the hands of God, whether you're a believer or a non-believer. And that's the truth. And that's one of the things that Job is speaking here. And I think that's what Job is learning, that God has the power of everything. In everything. He's in all and through all and above all, and there is nothing hidden from his sight. Nothing hidden from God's sight, and not a sparrow falls to the ground without God knowing. Not a hair falls from your head without God knowing. He's numbered them all. God is intimately involved in every single square inch of everything that he's created. He's everywhere. And I'm thinking of Jacob on the rock when he laid his head on the rock and slept in the night, and God appeared to him and showed him Jacob's ladder, and Jacob said, surely God is in this place, and I did not know it. Well, that's the case everywhere. But I love that story about Jacob and how his whole world was turned around in one vision and one moment. But that's chapter 27, and we'll continue on here.